Hello again.
Hello again.
It's really nice to see you.
You too.
Welcome back to Canada, where people seem to really love you.
I love
They
it up here.
embrace you.
I love it up here. I think it's a very open culture up here. It's very liberal and kind of progressive. So some of the things that maybe I get snagged up in other parts of the world, I don't get snagged up in here. So it feels good.
Like what?
I don't know. Certain, people get sidetracked by certain things that really don't have much bearing on the music. So I like it because I feel like the music speaks for itself a little bit more.
And you really actually feel that when you cross the border?
The minute I fly over, I feel like a shift, something totally changes.
Well,
Just
a
in
lot
general,
of us
you
take
know what I
heart
mean.
hearing that. I'm not sure it's always true of Canada, but Adam, this record, Trespassing, it's got this electro dance sound alongside some emotional ballads that once again show off your vocal range. It is a different sound from your last album, which was a little more rock. Were you setting out to achieve something different with this one?
I just started wanting to create music closer to the stuff that I listen to, leisurely. And I love dance music. I love electronic music, and I still love rock music. And I think that the album has rock spirit in it still, but it's not done in the traditional sense. We have a lot more progressive production style in it, and we definitely ventured more into like a disco funk type sensibility for the dance stuff, which was kind of like, in 70s, that's what some of the rock bands started segueing into. So it kind of feels like it's my journey in a very similar way.
You've talked in the past about there being this expectation of a classic rock sound around you. Did you, going into album 2, were there expectations you had to contend with, whether it be your fan base, the Lamberts, or the label? Or
No, that's what was so great about this process is that first of all, I had time. So the pressure was definitely present. I had one that I created for myself, and then there was also, the fans were wondering what I was doing. The label had certain things that they wanted to see, but there was no rush, which was really nice. And so I really got to get into the studio with different writers and producers and just experiment. And I think that was the best part of this, is that I was allowed to kind of try a handful of different directions. And then, about 4 or 5 months into it, I started seeing a trend that I liked, which was this kind of funk groove-based stuff.
I know you're proud of album 1, but is this one more you?
I definitely think this is a little more me. I got to co-write most of the songs on the album, which makes a big difference, puts your own voice into them. And I got really involved in even the production of it. Even though I'm not, the actual producer, I had a lot of thoughts and ideas to contribute. And I worked with some amazing people that were just like awesome collaborators, really good teamwork, I think, took place on this thing. And yeah, all the songs, whether they're upbeat and kind of silly, or if they're maybe one of the more serious songs, everything's very honest. There's a lot of authenticity in the lyrical content and the thematic content, I think, in the songs. It's all about something real.
It certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
And that's it's and more personal because of that. I want to get to that. Let me read you the first line of a review for this record. Adam Lambert, this is from EW.com. Adam Lambert might be the only American Idol alum who considers a purple eyeliner a daytime look. So it's hard to understand why it took him so long to make his big gay dance club album. And then it goes on. It's a very favorable review. But how do you react to that sentence?
That's cute. I think that was by a reviewer that doesn't really know much about me, but that's all good. That's part of being, in pop culture, is that sometimes you get boiled down to a tagline or like a caricature, and that comes with the territory. So,
In addition to co-writing most of these songs, you served as the executive producer of this album. What does that mean?
Well, I basically just got to be in the driver's seat creatively. Obviously I worked with a team of great people, the label, my management. But ultimately, it was my vision that was kind of adhered to for everything. And I even got to work with my photographer and graphic designer and helped create some of the imagery for the booklet, website, photography. All I just really wanted to make this me as much as possible.
Of all the sort of American Idol graduates, you have always seemed, certainly in and amongst those who are you haven't seemed like a puppet on a string, certainly. But was this, how important was it for you to move away from at least the perception that you were a manufactured part of the American Idol experience?
It's very important, because I think there's a lot of work that goes into doing this, and it's not that I need people to recognize, look how hard I'm working, but I just want people to know that that I'm at the helm of a lot of these decisions and choices, and that it's not a system unless it needs to be. I think, there are people that come off the show that need certain guidance and certain hand holding, and I think that's great that they're able to do that for certain talent. But I just think part of this whole experience is singing, writing, putting a look together, a concept, a video. I like the whole big picture of being a recording artist. That's what I wanted to get into this for in the first place. I've looked up to pop stars my whole life, like Michael Jackson and Madonna, and people that have this larger than life kind of 360 experience that they give to their fans.
There's this Carrie Underwood who was here not too long ago, and there's a few songs on her new album that she writes, but most of them she doesn't. And her answer is to why she doesn't. She says, I don't write as good songs as other people do, and I want, and I love the songs that become the big hits, and I don't write them. When you take more control, do you worry about? Was there? You seem like a confident guy, but was there any point where you sort of said, well, what if my contribution is not as good as the hit makers, and then therefore this album doesn't become the hit that
there was definitely in the process of putting together the album, there are a few songs on the album that I didn't write, and I love those songs. And I would agree with what Carrie had said. Sometimes a song comes your way that is just a really great song. And my own accomplishments and ego are definitely second to putting out great music. That is my first goal, is to put out a song that makes somebody feel something, whether it makes them dance or it makes them feel some sort of empathy. That's the main first priority. So there were songs that came my way that I said, you know what, I love that song so much, and I want that on the album. I don't have anything else like that on the album.
But how do you walk that line between a proprietary sense of what you want to own in terms of your record, your vision? You clearly have a vision, and being able to defer to others' opinions.
Well, I think it's just balance. I think one of the things that I did was
Why are you so balanced?
Because I work real hard at it. Because if I weren't, I would be a basket case, I think. I definitely have a really strong circle of friends, people that are also entertainers, and they've been very supportive and very integral to this process. I've bounced a lot of material off of my friends, both the stuff that I wrote, the stuff I didn't write, people that are super, super honest with me, no matter what. And that helped me a lot. It helped me kind of gauge where I was at creatively on this thing.
When those people, the people you trust, how do you feel when somebody says that's not very good, what you just wrote?
I take it. I listen to that.
You can handle that?
Yeah, I had friends that said, they're like, that's not my favorite. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, I don't remember it. I said, okay, good to know. And there were a couple songs that were in demo form early on that I thought were really, really, really cool, and they just weren't connecting with people. And ultimately, this is a process of having integrity artistically, but it is mass pop, and I want to reach a lot of people with this music. So if it wasn't connecting with people, I wasn't going to put it on the album.
Let me ask you about the song Outlaws of Love, which you co-wrote. In it you sing, nowhere to grow, we're always on the run. They say we'll rot in hell. Well, I don't think we will. They've branded us enough, outlaws of love. So to what extent do you feel now, personally, that it's important to be outspoken in social and political ways in your music?
Well, I mean, it's definitely just simply a part of who I am. I mean, it is part of my identity, and it always has been. I think that I came to personal terms with it when I was younger. I did my struggling when I was like a teenager, and dealt with my secrets surrounding my sexuality, and then at about 18, 19, I was open about it with people, and a big weight was lifted. And I went through the next couple years kind of exploring my identity and becoming more comfortable with that as a part of who I was. And by the time I was probably about 22, 23 years old, I was like, yeah, so I am, whatever. And luckily I was in the arts in Los Angeles, so I didn't really encounter a lot of discrimination or a lot of hardships because of it. I was one of the lucky ones. And my family is also very accepting. So I had a pretty comfortable experience altogether with alternative sexuality. And what's funny is it wasn't until becoming a contestant on Idol and then dealing with the whole fame component, that's when all of a sudden I was talking about it all the time and qualifying it and answering questions. And, it's been an interesting journey because there's a part of me that's really happy to do it because I don't have any issues with it. And I do know that there's kind of a lack of visibility, especially in the music world, for the LGBT community. And so it feels good. It feels like a privilege to be able to answer questions and try to, help combat ignorance and just progress things. But the hard part about it is that it can very easily overshadow the universal kind of appeal of music,
Right.
because not everything is about
or
sexuality.
become the thing that you are identified by consistently.
Yeah.
But when you put the songs like that on your album, I mean, Ariane Moffat was here last Friday. She's this fabulous singer-songwriter from Quebec who's become quite a star there. And she recently came out on this big TV show in Quebec. And she said the only trepidation she had about it was she just doesn't just want to be the lesbian singer.
Exactly.
You understand what that means.
Yeah.
So that's a tough line to walk, isn't it? Especially when you feel like you have to represent, or that you do represent in songs like the one we just played.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the last album, it was kind of like I wanted to go about it by saying, everyone knows, there's no secret, but I don't need to address it head on. And in this album, I thought, you know what? I do want to address it head on because it's something that I think about, and it's something that I deal with, now more than ever. And it's something that I feel like hasn't been given a lot of visibility, and there's not a lot of songs that are given a voice to that, So I felt like, it was a certain responsibility to address it in some of the songs and kind of and identify as that. Why not?
It's such an interesting trajectory that you get more questioned about it more a few years after you've come out and come to terms with it.
The other thing that's so frustrating about it is that you can't really win either way. I mean,
yes.
On one hand, to a certain audience, you're too gay.
Yes.
And it's, why is he always talking about gay this, gay that? That's all he talks about. And then to the gay community, it's like, okay, well, he's not being gay enough, or he's not being the right kind of gay,
right.
Which I don't even know what that means. And so
why aren't you the right kind of gay?
Kind of gay? Yeah. And I think I think it's a product of where we're at socially on it. I think it's the timing of it. It's a very sensitive thing right now, and it's also something that's not as under my control as people may think it is. And that's where it gets trippy, is that, I can do an interview, right? And they ask me like a list of different questions, and we have this huge conversation. Yeah. And at the end of the interview, the headline is like some really corny like joke about being gay, and it's like this, and it's like it's a punchline.
Right,
and that's what the media, some of the media, that's how they take like what I've said in an interview and make it quote unquote interesting to an audience. So, I'm just doing the best I can.
When you say that, just back to that song for a second, Outlaws of Love, when you say that is a commentary on the sadness and hopelessness you feel when you look at the situations that the gay, lesbian, I guess you'd say the LGBT community deals with daily, what frustrates you the most?
Well, I mean, like in the song, the line, they branded us enough. Like, I feel like there's this, like, we've been branded. Like, oh, that's the gay thing. There's this, like, everything gets so qualified and categorized, you know what I mean? And, I'm the openly gay singer, Adam Lambert. I'm not just the singer, Adam Lambert. It's this, like, tag that's put on it. And that, to me, is obnoxious.
Is it obnoxious that you're the first openly gay artist to become number one on Billboard? That's become something that's headlines the last few days.
I think that's a big honor. I think that's a pretty cool milestone, and I'm proud of that. And what I've been saying in my reaction to it is that I feel like, hopefully by proving that point, it says that music doesn't have an orientation, that music is universal, and it shouldn't matter, even though in many cases it does.
Right.
But I'm kind of trying to look forward and project a positive outlook on it and say that this is maybe an indication that we don't need to think about that so much. And that hopefully maybe this gives the music industry a little bit more comfort in the idea of promoting an openly gay artist to the mainstream, that maybe people are ready for it.
In your liner notes for this record, you thank your supporters, but also anyone who has ever told you no, anyone who has ever dissed you or judged you. Why did you want to thank them?
'Cause they fuel a lot of things. I see things and I hear things, and it's definitely made me a stronger person. Like I was telling you before, I came to the public eye. I didn't deal with a lot of like open naysayers. I didn't deal with a lot of direct criticism. I dealt with some rejection that was a little bit softer, you know, not getting a job or not being hired for this or that. But now it's like I can see things in print that are, you know, direct, and it fires me up a little bit, and I think that's good for me creatively.
Right. Just
Creates
like
a little
getting
tension.
dumped is good for someone. But you
Yeah.
don't really, and it's very magnanimous to put that in your liner notes, but you don't, do you, you don't really like being dissed, do you?
Well, who loves it? No.
No.
But it's kind of the ultimate fu. You know, it's me kind of saying like,
I can own it. It's okay. I'm strong.
yeah. Well, and I feel I you know I have a huge laundry list of insecurities and things that I deal with daily. You know, but
Let's talk about that.
yeah,
Because
you
this,
just listen to the song underneath, and
well,
you get a
I
good
was
dose
just
of
going to
it.
say, this album digs beneath the surface. You've called it existential pop, and there's a song called Underneath in which you sing, "It's still not that easy for me underneath."
Yeah.
So, what does that say about the journey you're going through internally?
I mean, I'm my own worst enemy. I'm really hard on myself. I'm my own worst critic, 100%. I question myself. I doubt myself. Sometimes I'm very cynical. To me, it's like a constant. It's a constant process to be positive, and it's a constant journey to like be content and happy with what I already have. And I think I'm in actually a really good place on it. You know, especially this year, I feel like the balance thing has been worked out really nicely, and I have a better grasp of it. But what Underneath talks about is that, you know what, underneath the swagger and the confidence and the pride and the ferociousness that sometimes I like to project for my fans and for myself. Underneath that, sometimes it's not easy.
So you're very, as you have been every time we've talked, you seem very confident, grounded, in touch with yourself when you're. Now, so is this partly a facade, or is this part of Adam Lambert, and we just don't see the
Yeah,
more self-critical or
I
difficult
think
side?
yeah. I mean, I think the real self-critical part lies in my own head. You know, it doesn't get given a voice very often. That's for me. You know, and that's what I love about that song in particular, and the darker half of the album is that it's the first time I think I've really allowed my audience to understand how I feel about some of this stuff. You know, I can sit here and talk about it in a cerebral way, and I feel good with my brain. I have a brain. I can like analyze things, and I can comment on things, and I'm pretty confident about that. But when you go into like a little deeper place, like more of an emotional place, my heart and my soul and where I feel there, that's something that I haven't really shown that much of to everybody. There's glimpses, I think, but I wanted to just lift the veil a little bit. I feel like my fans deserve that kind of reveal, you know, because they've been so loyal and so present.
I know I can't keep you here forever.
No,
in
I'll
fact,
stay forever.
in fact, in fact, more specifically, I know you have to go right now. I'm being told that. But so let me end by asking you just a couple questions about this. What you're going to be doing with Queen? Because
Yeah.
for some of us, that's a dream. You know,
I'm
it's
so stoked.
we talked about you being the first openly gay artist to hit number one. You'll be standing in for a hit-making musician who was not openly gay, the late Freddie Mercury of Queen. Do you think that previous generations of do you think about previous generations of gay performers and what they must have faced?
I've thought about Freddie and his experience. You know, I think it was a different time, and that's just how life goes. That's history, you know. And I think now, especially the younger generation coming up, it's the information age. People need to know stuff. They want to know things about you, and they can find out more about you now. You don't have the luxury of mystique as easily as you used to be able to have if you wanted to be that rock star. And that's just where we're at.
What will the greatest challenge be performing with Queen?
The greatest challenge, finding a balance in making it my own, but paying respect and homage to Freddie and the band. And luckily, I'm up there with Roger Taylor and Brian May, legends, who I think will be able to give me the green light or the red light on some of the choices I'm making.
Will you be wearing a jumpsuit?
I don't think a jumpsuit is my look, but I'll bring some cool shoes. I'll try to bring something fabulous, something Freddie would have enjoyed.
It's always a real pleasure.
Thank
to
you.
speak to you.
Likewise. Thank you.